Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I Ride Again with Adam Winters. I'm Joe Gould. We're looking at Ernest Rides Again from 1993, fifth film in the Ernest series, and also the final Ernest film to hit theaters.
Apparently not by intent, though, if you go by the tail end of this movie.
Yeah, so we can get the box office out of the way. The movie grossed $1.4 million, released November 11th, 1993. The wiki says the budget was $3 million, but I saw a fandom page said it was $7 million.
Oh,
For their sake, I hope it was $3 million.
gosh.
So
that's more than the Disney movies cost, wasn't it?
well, that makes me think it probably was $3 million. So I'm not sure. There's really no way to kind of figure that out at this point. But I'll take Wikipedia over fandom, and we'll say $1.4 million on a $3 million budget.
A disappointment, definitely.
Yeah, and can I just say, I have two thoughts. First, how would you describe the theatrical poster?
You know, it's been a long time since I've seen an actual theatrical poster, but the cover I always see on the videotapes and everything else is that scene. I mean, it's a screen cap, really, that's right from the climax when Ernest is wearing the crown of England and he has an arrow through his shoe. Is that the one you're thinking of?
No, that would be an improvement.
Really?
So my understanding is that was the VHS cover.
Okay, that's what I remember.
But this was a theater movie. This wasn't a VHS movie.
Right.
So the theatrical poster is a close-up of a grinning, big-eyed Ernest head with Ernest Rides Again across the top and digitized confetti of various colors. And it tells you nothing about the movie.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to go see this? And
Ernest is in it.
But the last time we were chatting before, and I mentioned Ernest posters historically have been pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, maybe that was the Disney backing, who knows? But these are advertisers making these movies. And this is the most stupid, lamest poster I have ever seen in my life. And you only spent $3 million. You only spent $3 million. Make the poster good.
Considering the subject matter of this movie, I feel like there's not a whole lot of different ways they could have gone with the idea, but they could have had a lot more fun with that cannon, working it into a cool-looking poster, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I also say I don't think the title of this movie is doing them any favors either.
Although it is on brand for what happens in the film. He spends about 1/3 of the movie riding on something. A truck, a cannon. What else does he ride?
So I'm spitballing here, okay? I haven't spent any time thinking about this. This movie could have been King Ernest.
Yeah.
This movie could have been Ernest's Crown Jewels.
Yeah.
This movie could have been Ernest Takes a Ride on a Cannon. Like, anything might have enticed people to, like, come see the movie with a cool poster to go with whatever silly title they came up with. They only spent $3 million.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't need that much. Like, it's embarrassing that they didn't make their money back.
This movie leans a lot harder on pop culture references than the other ones do. Especially Indiana Jones, for some reason. And if they were going to go that hard on explicit Indiana Jones references, maybe do what you could to sort of rip off an Indiana Jones-style title and poster and just go all in with that, right?
Ernest raids the Ark.
Yeah, the treasure... Raiders of the Treasures of the Lost Kingdom.
I can't remember all the titles of the Indiana Jones movies, or I'd make another joke or two.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was one of them. So, yeah. You know what they could have done with this movie? They could have gone the Ninja Turtles 3 approach and worked time travel into this. Wouldn't that have been a little bit of a twist with all the Revolutionary War history and the England crown jewels?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a little different plot,
But so before we talk about the movie, can I just say I really love the opening to this, as in I will randomly seek it out on YouTube and just play the opening theme.
So let me just say, this is not a positive reflection on the movie, but that is my favorite scene in the whole movie. And I have the lyrics. I can sing you the song.
It's good.
Or you can sing the song. Do you have the lyrics?
I got most of it memorized, but I'd have trouble recalling it under pressure. There once was a man named Worrell.
Ernest P. Worrell.
Yeah. And then there's a variety of things.
Even as a lad, he was sensitive and caring, as cunning as a fox and as slippery as a herring. Whimsical and mellow. Nice reference.
Yeah.
Pale and hearty fellow, not formal.
Not normal.
Not normal. He's kindly as a saint, but he'll never shirk a battle. To villains everywhere, he's a burr beneath the saddle. He's nimble, quick and brawny. His skin is smooth and tawny. Not mealy.
Not
Not
really.
really. See the lightning fill the sky. See the angry tide. See the blinding rain come down. But where is the hero now? The children cried.
He went inside.
He went inside, yes. The hero of today is the legend of tomorrow.
That's true.
And whoever crosses him shall live their life in sorrow. I like that. For lo, the bridge is burneth, that the maid not returneth to learneth from Ernest. There once was a man named Worrell, Ernest P. Worrell. Let's celebrate this champion, this paragon of virtue. And should you be his foe, you'll be sorry if he hurts you. To some, he's just a man, but to others, he's a beacon. He sends his mother cash, and he calls her every weekend. He's punctual, he's affable, he's never quick to quarrel. He's moral.
He's Ernest.
He's Ernest P. Worrell.
I mean, that sums up his movie career. I mean, he's all those things. You know?
So
aside from maybe calling his mother every weekend, but I guess maybe he is his own grandmother somehow.
He's sending Auntie Nelda money?
Yes, he probably does. How else did she get all her outfits?
He's embezzling from Cherry and Coke.
I never thought about that Cherry and Coke. That's pretty good. Never came together for a Cherry Coke Ernest commercial, though.
Yeah. So here's my other problem with this movie. Again, self-inflicted wounds, right? This movie released November 11th, 1993. So the weekend of November 12th to the 14th, this movie ranked 16th. It got 905,000 off 1,190 theaters.
That's rough.
Do you know what movie was 6th?
Probably Jurassic Park or something like that.
No, I think he beat Jurassic Park. It was on like week 14 or something. But
oh, man.
The Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, no, really? And he was the head star of that.
It was its 5th week, and it got $2.67 million. It made $34 million up to that point. Boy, now, let me ask you something. How many Jim Varney movies do you think the United States can support at one time in theaters?
Not more than one, is what I'm guessing.
No. It's like self-inflicted wounds.
Was that something Varney did on his own, independent of anything with Cherry and Coke Sam's? Because they own the character, but they don't own his rights or anything, right?
I mean, how many Jim Varney movies have been in theaters that aren't Ernest?
Well, Toy Story 1 and 2, but he's not the lead in that, and it's a vocal part.
Correct. So it's not like he's got a lot of stuff hitting the theaters. He's not got like 5 films a year. So Hillbillies was 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was just piss poor timing. Like, I wouldn't want a Varney movie within 6 months of another Varney movie. Like, just wait. Better to break even in 6 months than to lose $2.5 million today.
Yeah, and they were so strategic with the way they released the previous films. That's just real unfortunate, I think. Now,
maybe they were just thinking, hey, just break even box office and we'll make our money on VHS tapes.
Yeah.
That's a plausible scenario. And they might have thought they could just, ride their laurels to $3 million.
If you're banking on VHS, wouldn't you want to wait until a point where you could have the VHSs ready for a Christmas season? Because it'd take a while for that thing to go to VHS.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that the movie lost money overall. I don't know how much they did on theater or VHS tapes. So, but again, ugly poster, horrible timing, box office disaster.
What is the studio that distributed this? What's the name of it?
M Shell, I think. This is the.
Yeah. I never heard of that. They
produced it and distributed it. Yeah.
Is that a Coke Sam studio name, or is that something different?
It's theirs. It's their production company. Yeah, I'm sure Ernest is working into the M part, but so my other problem with this movie is this movie's too long. Oh, it's too long.
It feels it, man. I thought it was about over at various points, and it's not like it doesn't grind the momentum to a halt at any point, because that once they get on that cannon,
it never has momentum,
and the momentum it does have is weird.
Yeah, the last 20 to 30 minutes was fine. I think the last 20, 30 minutes was fine, but that first half hour, man, that's painful. That's painful.
Did you like the opening scene with all the gags of the power tools and the house construction? Because I liked it.
I enjoyed that. It looked very cheap. I liked how, so he's using his little homemade metal detector to look for treasure while there's building development's on lunch break.
Pretending he's Indiana Jones.
A one house development, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's pretending to be Indiana Jones. And I can't remember how he does it, but he electrifies all the equipment, and even though it's unplugged, it all starts running and chasing him and shooting nails at him. There was a handsaw that was chasing him that only sometimes was running. I'm not quite sure on that one.
I guess if you're a longtime fan, you just assume it has something to do with Ernest Goes to Jail, but it's never referenced directly.
No, it's like he's got some kind of static electricity thing going on or something. I don't know. But no, I mean it's a fun little scene. It's definitely DTV quality, direct to video.
Yeah.
Nothing is gonna stand out on the big screen, so to speak.
Were you disappointed none of those construction workers punched him around so we could get to see the bruised and battered Ernest again?
I don't know that it would have worked. He seems to have. They make a reference to it that he's almost a cartoon character, and if he was just a little bit more of a cartoon character, he might not feel all the pain that comes from these things. But he ends up basically nothing can hurt him in this movie.
You're right. He is revealed to have another superpower, and it comes from having an incredibly dense skull, and maybe even the skin on top of it, because they establish it at the beginning when the nail gun goes off on him, that it hit the hard end, and you think, oh, that's a one-off gag. But no, that comes back in a very big way near the climax of this movie.
Yeah.
You think he's an android or something? A cyborg?
I don't know. I can't remember what happened to him.
Which part?
But there was something where he makes the quote that if he wasn't just that close to being an actual cartoon, he wouldn't have hurt, or that's how he almost died. But he's just human enough to feel pain. He does make an actual reference to it.
Androids can still have pain sensors.
This is when Mellon and Ernest were both at the work site.
Okay, Dr. Mellon. We're going to jump into this guy.
Well, one more thing, just in general in the movie. So this movie was not filmed in Nashville. It was filmed in Canada.
British
almost
Columbia.
Everyone who's in this movie is from Canada.
Okay, that makes sense now. They were filming in Canada, but they want to pass it off as somewhere vaguely near Virginia. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, and I think their premise is no one's been to Virginia and no one's been to Canada, so you wouldn't know better.
It's ironic that they pass some of the Rocky Mountains off as Appalachian Mountains, but it kind of works. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. One shot or
I don't think I haven't really been in Virginia. I can't tell you what the Virginia mountains look like.
It's Appalachia, it's just kind of there.
It's like West Virginia. Have anyone actually been to West Virginia?
Western Virginia or West Virginia? Which part?
Neither.
Okay. Western Virginia. There's really nothing there. You just drive through it on your way to somewhere else, North Carolina or something like that.
Yeah. So, and tied to that, these Canadian actors, I just don't care for any of them. You got...
Who's the villain?
The evil, what's his name?
That's a good one. I like that. He's a doctor, a medical doctor, and loaded rich.
Yeah. No, it was great. I thought the whole movie that I couldn't remember the guy's name. It was like Glencliff or something. And then Ernest makes the point. I'd love to know if this was ad lib, but he has to, hey, where's Doctor what's his name's coming or whatever, something like that. Like he couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, that's fair. Glencliff. I just wonder how you come up with that. So Dr. Mellon is a pun. Mellon is at least a pun. I don't understand Glencliff.
Yeah. So you have Dr. Abner Mellon. You have his colleague, Dr. Radnor T. Glencliff.
Oh. Well, we should note this. They're not so much peers, but Glencliff is on the board of trustees of his university, whatever that is.
And then there's a handful of other characters that are important. You have Nan, who is Mellon's wife, and you have these two vacuum salesmen.
Ugh. I didn't appreciate
not your favorite duo.
No.
And they're not very good.
No. They're both the same guy. They just repeat everything the other says on stereo.
Yeah, and that's basically all the main characters. Everyone else is a minor character.
So it's weird to me, number one, it's weird that Ernest has a pre-existing history, some kind of apparent friendship. It's more one way with somebody who's not a kid or a coworker. And you wonder, number one, how did he start this relationship with Dr. Mellon, and why does it continue? And why is he always... You assume the reason he's hunting out artifacts is so he can give them to Dr. Mellon, who has some very interesting ideas about Revolutionary War history and the crown jewels. And it's also weird, number two, there's no kids in this movie. I know that was true in Jail. There was really no kid characters. But it is odd to have any Ernest movie where he has an adult best buddy who's not Vern. And you just wonder how that came about.
Yeah. And it works better with Jail because you have evil Ernest. You got a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
You'd be shoehorning a kid into that movie.
Yeah.
In this movie, I'm not sure you could get one in this one any easier.
No.
But it is odd that I agree. Unlikable kids are just inherently less annoying on film sometimes than unlikable adults. By unlikable, I mean bad actors with not any kind of good charisma going. You kind of get used to boring kids.
And Dr. Mellon, he's not just a sidekick. He is the co-lead in a lot of this movie, where he has to do a scene mostly by himself. And at no point do you really root for the guy, because he does stuff to make himself unlikable. Even though he's pathetic, he's also unlikable.
No, I think he's trying to come across like the stupid dad in like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I forget the actor's name.
Rick Moranis.
Yeah, but he just ain't got the look. He doesn't have the charisma. But that's kind of how he's trying to carry himself, I think.
He does try to do that dialect or that cadence with his voice that Rick Moranis would do in a lot of, like a Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors even. Yeah. He's kind of pushed around by everybody.
And so he was played by Ron K. James. He was, again, Canadian actor, pretty much flamed out in Hollywood. This was his biggest role, I believe.
And Ernest Rides Again.
Picked up a lot of debt and went back to Canada and did a stand-up show. So maybe he's a funny comedian.
Okay.
Didn't work out. He won some awards for his stand-up.
So the wife, Mrs. Mellon, I guess her name is Nan. This is the first of her 3 Ernest movies that I'm aware of.
I saw that, and it makes me not want to watch the others.
Because if Abner is pathetic and unlikable, Nan is just the worst. You almost feel like she's the real villain of this movie.
Well, the thing is, too, is you get mixed vibes on what her motivations are.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she wants money. She wants to be successful. She's tired of Abner embarrassing her, which he does, for what it's worth. And she wants him to kind of man up. He wants him to kiss her. He won't kiss his wife.
That's a problem.
Until he's changed by Ernest and develops an Elvis accent and kisses her, and she's all about that. So, I mean, it's weird. It's like she's not a villain. Not really.
She's the heel. She's the heel of this movie. And I don't know why it is. Do you know something about the 1990s? They would always just have this popular trope, movies, TV shows, cartoons, whatever. The woman in the exercise outfit, who just always had the same personality.
Yeah.
Super bossy, always aggressive, never changes out of the it's always pink, black, exercise outfit combo.
They did add the boxing gloves to this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, none of these people are, you just don't want to watch any of them. Ernest is fine. Varney does good.
A little bit more interesting than everybody else. So let me say a little bit about Varney here. He looks significantly older than he did in Scared Stupid to me.
Yes, he aged very quickly in this time frame.
It's interesting. You don't know if that was early onset cancer or what. But, we had talked a little bit before about how in some of the direct-to-video movies, John Cherry would just comment that Varney just had a little bit less energy. And it's not that he doesn't try in this movie, but the lack of any kind of cutaway characters when it sort of would make sense in this movie. Again, all the Indiana Jones references and Explorer. He doesn't do any of that. Maybe that's on direction, but it would have added a lot more if you just had those random character hamming it up for the camera shots. And when I talk about the lack of energy, where I think it hurts the movie in certain parts, is because they get shot at a lot in this movie. And they have to, what is it Ernest says, be a moving target? And it just has no energy when they're trying to avoid gunshots.
So, I will say, they're riding on a cannon, so I'm not sure how easy it would have been to be bouncing around.
You can cartoon that up. Even if you use the composite shots. Just do the, looking out, like Bill Berg did in Ernest Goes to Jail, about hiding behind the lamppost, stuff like that. You can make it look like a shooting gallery, and it would be funny.
But I think I blame Cherry on that one more than Ernest.
All right, yeah, fair enough.
But no, I didn't notice physically he was slower as much as they didn't use it very much. So I don't know.
It may be an issue of direction. I give you that.
Now I haven't seen Ernest Plays Basketball. Does he bouncing around in that movie?
Yeah, he gets magic shoes so he can slam dunk.
Okay.
Back before
so
everybody.
That movie probably. See, I would think that movie would be a better indicator.
Nowadays, if you got magic basketball shoes, it would have to help you shoot the 3-pointer better, because they just don't play that mid-range inside game like they used to.
No. But, they let Ernest, he'd be able to travel all over the place. So I think other than the opening song, I did like some of the dialogue in this movie. Some of it was pretty funny. I had a finding device once. I lost it.
Nope. That's good.
That was good. he gets distracted by a lizard while they're looking for the cannon. He say, "Hey, isn't this one of them lizards where the tail falls off and you can grow another lizard?"
It's a good question. He sort of has a follow-up to that, too, if I remember.
Yeah, and then the melon guy, he's with him. He says, "I'm a well-read, intelligent, literate man with 2 PhDs. So why am I on a wild goose chase with a refugee from Sesame Street?"
Taking a shot at
Ernest, 2 weeks without a tail would be tough.
Kind of shocking Ernest never guest starred on Sesame Street, now that I think about it, but... Yeah.
Then you have the Aunt Nelda quote, "No respect. That's the trouble with young people today. No respect for their elders. You're just like my second son, Jaime. I had to teach him manners. He's dead now."
Okay, the Auntie Nelda bit was good, as much as I complained about the lack of characters. They work it in organically, because he's running through yards like Ferris Bueller, and he goes by the clothesline, and he recognizes his opportunity, and he is able to successfully shame the other guy and eventually knock him out. That's good. I like that. And then he has trouble resetting his neck, too, which is funny.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen him de-disguise himself. That was like maybe the first time.
It happens in Christmas a little bit. You know, it's a little bit there.
Is that the first Nelda scene where she's not wearing green?
Oh, in this movie? She wasn't? I just thought she was.
No, it was a white polka dot.
Oh, well, he had to work with what he had, I suppose.
Well, it's a surprise they didn't put the green dress up there.
I guess that's just, they didn't have the money for a green blouse. They have to cost.
Didn't they already have it? He's been this character for 10 years.
Maybe Disney owned it all. That's a good question. Oh, man.
So do we want to talk about the plot?
It's hard to even figure out what it is, but here's my understanding of what the plot is. You can tell me if I'm right. Professor Mellon is going before his university's trustee board to talk about his research progress. And I don't know if he's published on this or he's gone to conferences or what, but his claim is that the actual crown jewels of England are not in England, but during the Revolutionary War, they were hidden in a giant cannon called Goliath. And he believes Goliath was stored somewhere in Virginia. And if they can find Goliath, they'll find the real crown jewels, and the university trustees tell him he's an idiot, except for the medical doctor, what's his name, who says, "I'm interested."
Yeah, Evil What's His Name is a collector of all the important artifacts, and he wants the jewels. So whether he believes the theory or not, he's not going to discourage someone from finding such a thing.
Because he's big into collecting historical artifacts for his own private enjoyment.
Yes. Speaking of collecting artifacts, did I tell you I got a 35 millimeter reel of Ernest Goes to Camp's trailer?
You showed it to me on Facebook. You got any means to convert it or exhibit it, play it?
No, I haven't even opened it yet.
You should talk to those guys who are doing the publishing project. Work something out there.
I also ordered, I need to stop now while I'm ahead. I also ordered the same thing for Critters 2.
Critters 2, really? Not the original?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
It's tough finding a place that you can convert original film to digital. You kind of got to know where to go on that.
Well, I don't know if I have a lot of interest in converting it to digital. I mean, it's just the trailers are available online. It's just neat having the physical original reel.
It is, yeah.
The real films are expensive, though. You get a whole thing like 5 reels. It's like, what in the world?
So let me talk just briefly before we delve into much of the plot. The version I watched of this is on a compilation DVD. Ernest Wackiest Adventures Volume 1 has about 3 other things with it. And the aspect ratio appeared to be your CRT television set, standard definition, 4:3, full frame. I don't know if does a 16.9 widescreen, does that exist anymore?
I thought about that because I watched it on Vudu. It wouldn't let me buy it. I had to just view it with ads, which was annoying. I'm at the point in my life where I'll spend the $3 not to watch ads. And so I don't know. I found, right before we recorded, I found something on Blu-ray on eBay. It was a 6 movies on 1 disc. I'm looking forward to that quality. And I don't think it's a bootleg, but it's got Saves Christmas, this one, and then all the direct-to-videos.
Oh, that's a good pack, yeah. That's good.
For $30 for Blu-ray, it's probably about as cheap as it gets. Yeah. So, per movie. And I'll be interested in seeing if that's full screen. But yeah, I found online on Bing I think it was Bing. It alleged to be a widescreen version of this movie, but it was pretty grainy, and it makes me wonder if it was just zoomed in. So I even kind of wondered,
Yeah,
was the theater based off of a full screen version they just zoomed in?
because I wouldn't be able to remember that. You know, you go to movie theater as
No,
a
I mean,
kid, you're not thinking about the aspect ratio.
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that they, didn't use the full screen in the theater. But I kind of wonder if they chopped off some of the top and bottom of the screen, and that would just made it even more blurry, though.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, I
interesting.
complained when we watched Saved Christmas about the video quality, and then it got better. And with this one, it seemed to revert back to the Saved Christmas. But again, it might just be the version I'm watching.
Still better than Dr. Otto, the
Well,
quality.
yeah.
Uh,
But yeah. So Dr. What's His Name, or Evil What's His Name, tells the melon to let him know if he finds any good news. So while that's going on, Ernest is playing in the construction camp, looking for treasure. Finds a little bit. And then he finds what looks like a boomerang, but it's really
Yeah.
a plate from an old cannon. Now, I can't recall if Ernest thinks it's from a cannon or not, but he thinks that the doctor would be interested, and he takes it to him. And eventually, the melon figures out that it's an identity marker plate of some sorts from Goliath.
I was amused by the boomerang scene where Ernest grabbed the historical book from the university and used it as a shield, and then he tried to fix it, and the book fell apart. Because people think people who work in libraries are horrified by that, but I guess it's sort of like the firefighter who gets interest in arson. There is a fascination, I think, with watching a historic book fall apart.
Yeah, and the melon had just been warned by one of the trustees not to mess up that book.
And that plot thread didn't go any further than that, unfortunately. We didn't get to see the consequences.
No. So they take that little artifact to Evil What's His Name, and he says that it's a great sign, but it's not enough for him to do anything about. So he needs to go back and get more physical evidence. Now, what they don't know is he took a picture of it while he's talking to him for one of the security cameras. So he does intend to do his own research.
Yeah.
But Ernest and Abner go back to the construction site. They use his wife's new car, which they can't afford. And they find a cannonball, which then they do some fuzzy math to figure out where the cannonball would have been shot from. And then they go look for the cannon over there.
The trajectory.
Meanwhile,
yeah.
Meanwhile, Evil What's His Name has told his henchmen to get all the information on this cannon and the crown jewels that you can. Use Melon's name, of course. And then I guess when they do that, it triggers the Brits. And they apparently have just been knowing that they don't have the real crown jewels, but they're not going to speak up about that. So they send a team over to Virginia to try to find these crown jewels before anyone else does.
I had forgotten how Her Majesty's Secret Service got involved. I was thinking they just were there the whole time.
No, I'm pretty sure it's from the inquiry that Evil What's His Name made under the name of Melon.
So it was sort of his own fault.
Yeah, and I think they were just requesting documents, basically. But yeah.
Okay. Huh. I'm not sure they do a whole lot. Her Majesty's Secret Service.
They don't do much successfully. At one point, they try to do a roadblock, and it doesn't work. So
that's another one of the difficulties of this movie. You've got so many different people sort of after the same thing, but none of them really add anything extra to the plot.
No, and so you have another one of those little strayed plot points. So Abner's wife recognizes her car's missing, so she appropriates 2 vacuum salesmen and their vehicle to go drive her around town looking for her husband.
Yeah.
And eventually, they do see that Abner and Ernest has found the cannon, and they just chase him for the rest of the movie, along with the Evil What's His Name's goons and the British Secret Service.
Now, we skipped over how they find the actual cannon, and then what happens after that.
How would you describe it?
Well,
I'll give you this one.
So, Ernest found the boomerang, which is a clue, and Ernest found the cannonball, very conveniently. And while they're using that fuzzy mass to track down the trajectory of where the cannon must have been fired from, which even then, if it was fired, why would the cannon still be in the same place it fired it from? But there's a giant shed that has been covered over by vegetation in the passing years, and Ernest climbs on top of it for some reason.
He's looking for that lizard.
Oh, yeah, the lizard. And he finds a big hole, the lizard goes down. He falls down the hole, and it turns out that was the shed covering the Goliath's cannon. And Abner is really excited right up until the point, I guess, they discover there are no crown jewels. Remind me of how that all played out. Because Abner loses his head at some point here, and there's no reason for him to do that.
Yeah, well, one of the plots, or maybe the moral of the story is hidden in this somewhere, but Abner Mellon has almost like an identity crisis throughout this movie,
Ugh.
where everyone doubts him, puts him down, doesn't believe in him, other than Ernest. And throughout the movie, Ernest and Abner develop a good, strong friendship. But frequently, right after he celebrates Ernest for something, Ernest does something really stupid or something disappointing, and he's like, "Why did I even do this in the first place?"
That petty little Poindexter.
Yeah. So right before Ernest fell in the hole, Abner was irritated that he was chasing a lizard. And he said, "Screw it, I'm gone." But before he actually got away, that's when Ernest fell through the hole and he went and helped him. And then they hooked the... See here.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them accidentally riding the cannon down the street in this movie, and I think we should just gloss over that for the most part.
They steal the tractor from a local farmer. That's pretty funny.
Well, yeah, but they weren't there yet. So Ernest removed the chalk that was holding the cannon in place, and it takes off, and they ride it, and eventually they land in this barn. And instead of just staying there hidden, they hook it up to a tractor and steal a tractor and ride away slowly. Eventually, they hit a what was it? A tree frog poison apple irrigation system? What was it? It was I gotta find it.
Oh man,
they hit a blockade though.
Is it the what's his name doctor, or is it somebody else's blockade?
No, this is just a street thing. This has nothing to do with anything that. They were stopped by an apple maggot contamination site. Apple maggot contamination site.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah. So that they get stuck there, and that's when they examine the cannon. Oh no, sorry, the bad guys catch up.
No, that's what I was saying.
And then Ernest decides that the Goliath must speak, and he fires a cannonball at the bad guys.
How did he know that? Were they
They
shooting?
were in that car. Yeah, they've been chasing him and shooting him. Anyways, he shoots the cannon at the bad guy against the advice of Mellon, because Mellon says you're going to shoot the jewels out of the barrel.
Okay.
They keep thinking, because he'd been told they were hidden in the barrel.
Not a great hiding
place. So when Ernest uses the barrel, and then the cannonball comes out, it's great because they stop the bad guys. But Abner has another identity crisis because it meant he was wrong all along.
It's clearly a cannonball that came out. It's not like Ernest destroyed the jewels.
No, and he wasn't mad about him saving the day as much as he was mad that he even went on the journey in the first place. Giant waste of time.
That moronic little milksop. Yeah.
Yeah. So he walks off, eventually runs into his wife, and then he hits the realization that he's not the same person anymore because of his friendship with Ernest, and he speaks Elvis to her and gives her a kiss, and she's no longer mad, and then he goes back to reconcile with Ernest. Well, while he was off doing that, Ernest accidentally busted one of the beer barrels or the whiskey barrels that were I guess was holding gunpowder, I'm not sure. And he finds that the crown jewels were in that barrel all along, so it was a different barrel, basically.
So
and he puts the crown on, and it gets stuck.
He was already in and out of the cannon then. I forgot when he was stuck and when he wasn't.
Oh yeah, that was way earlier.
He got hit by the car. That's when he fell out of the cannon. That was during the chase, though.
Yeah. Well, there's multiple chases.
Yeah.
And they all were pretty ridiculous.
It feels like the end of a Dukes of Hazzard episode with all the different car chases involved.
Yeah, and it was a little bit too much. Like, Ernest couldn't steer the cannon, but the cannon would turn to stay on the road.
Oh, yeah. Abner's in a go-kart at one point. He's breaking ground like Mario Kart.
At one point, Evil What's-His-Name's chasing Ernest, who's on the cannon, not being pulled by anything.
Right.
And loses ground, which makes no sense. And then Ernest stops. Eventually, it runs out of... So it's slowing down. It runs out of momentum, stops. Bad guy nowhere to be seen, even though he was just shooting at them a few seconds earlier. Then the cannon rolls down the hill the other direction towards the bad guys. And it's just like, it's a big mess. Like, it's just not... It's not funny enough to overlook the absurdity of it.
The momentum is not carrying this chase.
No. So the bad guys aren't killed by the cannonball. Eventually they get up to where Ernest is, and they can't get the crown off his head. They spend quite a bit of time trying to do that.
They do capture him, take him back to the lair.
Yeah, so Evil What's-His-Name says, screw it, we're wasting our time. Let's take him back to the operating room, and we'll just cut it. We'll cut him off. So they leave with Ernest, and that's when Abner gets back, and he puts two and two together that... I can't recall if he thinks that Ernest found the jewels or not, but he recognizes that Ernest got carried away by the bad guys.
And he knows where to go, which is the clinic, because he had been there before, but he's making a big assumption they're going back there. It's a very public place, though. You know, a lot. I assume that somebody would notice a giant cannon pulling up, but whatever.
Well, they didn't take the cannon.
Really?
They had the jewels.
Why are they not interested in the cannon? I found the cannon more interesting than the crown jewels. Maybe that's because I'm an American. But the cannon itself is a pretty big find. Jewels or not.
Yeah, but jewels are priceless.
Be happy with a cannon. That's what I say.
Well, anyways, maybe they did take the cannon. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't come back. It doesn't show up again. But anyways, all these different groups eventually all go back to the same place. I don't recall why Abner's wife went back to the clinic, but everybody. So
I don't recall
the
that.
British social security. The British security guys get there. Ernest gets there. Well, Ernest is already there. All these different characters eventually get there. They're torturing Ernest, or they're trying to torture Ernest, but their tools don't work against his hard head. The saw they put on his forehead just breaks.
I wonder how comparable Ernest's head is to metal or rock. Like, how dense does something have to be to break that saw?
I don't know. It's very cartoony in this movie, and not in the same way that all the previous ones were.
Right.
So, and then we have the scene where he gets shot with the ancient arrow in the foot, and it goes through his foot, and he takes his shoe off, and there's no hole in his foot.
That's fair. The arrow.
So the arrow's through the shoe, but not the foot.
This is just an extension of the way of the blade, the rock, and the arrow.
Paper, rock, scissors, man.
So again, they're making these very subtle references to old Ernest movies, but it's not clear that it's ever supposed to be in continuity with that. That's it. It just puts this movie in a weird place. Because it would only make sense if you had those other movies to make sense of it. But they don't share the same continuity.
No, I did like the arrow in the foot scene. I will say that. It's stupid, but I was funny.
Yeah.
And then eventually, evil what's-his-name says, screw this, I'm going to just take his head off. So he picks up a giant axe, and Ernest is tripped over himself, and he's on the floor. And then right before he cuts his head off or breaks the blade trying, the melon comes in and throws the boomerang at evil what's-his-name, and knocks him out, and Ernest is alive. Didn't save the day this time. He's just alive.
Is that the end of the villain? Did they do anything else?
Well, the British security comes in, and they say they're there for the jewels.
Yeah.
And Ernest says, I'd love to give it to you, but it's stuck in my head. And they say, oh, well, whoever wears the crown is the king.
That'd be a movie.
That would be.
That'd be a second part here to follow up with Ernest in England.
Yeah. So throughout the whole movie, Abner keeps getting mad at Ernest for playing little pranks on him where he points at, hey, what's that on your shirt? And when he looks down, he pokes him in the nose, flicks him in the face. And Abner gets mad the whole movie and just not amused by this humor. But in the final scene, Melon tricks Ernest, points says, hey, what's that on your shirt? He looks down, flicks him in the face. And after all that, it causes the crown to fall off his head. So Ernest is no longer the king of England.
I guess we dodged a bullet on that.
I don't know. He went to Africa instead. So
eventually. He went to school next, but yeah.
So technically the movie was not over there. We then get a trailer for their next movie, Ernest Goes to School, which it advertised to be theatrical. Didn't end up happening after this one.
I think it said August 1994, theaters everywhere.
Something like that. And then we get the credits.
Yeah, well, I mean, I enjoy it. It just, I'd used the expression before, this movie feels like the franchise is running out of gas or running on fumes. Runs out of momentum, much like those chase sequences do.
Well, it just wasn't very inspiring of a script. I mean, I think the bones were there where they could have done something interesting, but they didn't get any actors that brought anything to the table other than Ernest. You could claim Evil What's-His-Name, but he's so wonderful that we don't remember his name. Neither does Ernest. So, having your, what are the two guys' names? Billy Bob Thornton? What is it?
Not Chuck and Bobby, whoever they are.
Chuck and Bobby. Well, if they had Chuck and Bobby, at least you would have had, a connection to those characters. But the vacuum salesmen were just lame.
Yeah.
So there's just nothing other than Ernest to keep you want to make you watch the movie.
And again, it feels long. You're like, it's still going.
I forgot. So the movie doesn't even open with Ernest. I was really confused. I thought maybe I was streaming the wrong thing. Did you get the little Bill video at the front?
Oh, the Mr. Bill?
Yeah. You get a 5-minute or 10-minute Mr. Bill.
Not on my DVD. I do remember something about that from the VHS tape.
Okay. Well, you were fortunate.
Great. 10 minutes of Mr. Bill?
Yeah, right before a 15-minute too long Ernest movie. Basically, Mr. Bill won the presidency.
Election 93. I remember
it. So, I guess we would rate this on cannonballs or melons.
Yeah. We'll go with melons. How many melons do you give it?
I'm going to give this one 1.5 melons.
Oh, I thought I was going to lowball it with... I was going to say 2.5, only because the opening theme raises it by at least half a star. But it's one of those things that, as much as I love the opening number, and I can go back and listen to that. That doesn't do anything for the movie. So I'm leaning towards 2 melons, and if I'm being generous, I'll give it 2.5 just because of what I do enjoy about it. But I can't go 3 melons by any means. Not 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I give it 1 melon for the song and a half melon for some of the witty dialogue, especially about the lizard.
1.5 melons, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could be convinced. I could flip it to a half melon for the song and a 1 melon for the dialogue. I'm fine with that. But yeah, I can't go to 2.
Yeah, and again, the franchise may have been limping along, but it kept going. 4 more movies.
Yeah, so maybe we'll hit those, maybe we won't, but we'll see. So you got any other thoughts on Rides Again?
Well, it does live up to its title, because a lot of riding the cannons in that.
Oh yes, lots and lots and lots.
I wonder where they got the cannon from.
I don't know.
I do think it's funny when Ernest encourages Dr. Mellon to blow off his history class. Like, just forget about it. Let's go hunt for a cannon. I wonder what may exist in the way of deleted scenes from this film.
I'm sure they're deleted at this point.
Ooh, yeah, deservedly so.
All right, well, that was Ernest Rides Again from 1993. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you listen to us on Spotify, give us a thumbs up or 5 stars, whatever it is, and subscribe. Same thing with YouTube.
Yeah, there we go. The fan gallery speaking out. Goliath must speak.
It's either Amazon or the mail. Hadn't run yet.
You know what? Ernest really is. He was the hero of the day, but he was the legend of tomorrow. And today he is the legend of yesterday.
You know, Ernest Delivers the Mail would have been a good movie.
I could get into that. Ernest as a mailman. There's a lot of potential in that for humor.
You could almost make that a weekly episode.
Indeed. You could have him trying to guess what's in each of the packages and something comedically wrong happening because of that.
Lots of dog bites. You can see that.
Yep.
But anyways, before my dog rudely interrupted me, subscribe to us on YouTube. Like our videos. Don't dislike them. Just like them. And Year Without Santa Claus went viral, man. All right. Well, we will see y'all next time. See ya.
Bye-bye.